And all of us have been moving since we're in our mother's wombs. In fact, when you see, for us who scan a baby, and you see that the baby is not moving, you get worried that baby may not be well. So we are really created to move right in there before we were born. So yes, the Reverend Conductor Jensen, we are all ears to hear what you're going to say, what the Lord is going to speak to us through you. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this opportunity once again to listen to you as you speak through the Reverend Conductor Senyonyi. Want to pray that you may fill him with your Holy Spirit, and that he will speak your very own thoughts and also your very own expressions in words, and that we may give him an attentive ear, and that whatever we hear today, Lord, will help us to be people of better character. Thank you for the gift of movement. There are people who cannot move for some reason or the other, but thank you that we can still move. We pray that as many as can will join on, and that they will all benefit greatly from this topic. We are praying, Lord, that yes, that our gadgets will function well, and that our internet also will work well, and that there will be no disturbance whatsoever, that we shall behave ourselves and mute when we're supposed to mute our microphones. We are praying all this in Jesus' name. Amen. So, Reverend Dr. John Senyonyi, please address us.
Thank you very much, Professor Kawoya, for inviting me to this, and also for adding the spice that from the time we are in our mother's womb, we have to move. And when a baby doesn't move, you get concerned. There are many things that we take for granted, and I think that's what you're reminding us of, but which are very, very important for us in human life, that if there is no sign at all of movement, for example, it's like even when someone doesn't eat, then you get very concerned and you say, oops, no, you want people to be able to eat. So this is what we are talking about, and welcome once again to this session. It's a joy for us to be here. My wife, Dr. Ruth, is also in another room and listening in. So feel free, especially toward the end, if you want to ask her some questions concerning what I'm talking about. Created to move, a life of physical activity. Okay? And I think you can see the picture on the right already kind of suggests what I'm going to be addressing. Physical activity or physical exercise, which by definition is just any skeletal movement of muscles requiring more energy than resting. I know that in most cases, resting seems to be a lot more attractive. But, skeletal movements are very important, even as Professor Kawoya said. And some of the things, and I'm not saying this is exhaustive, there are so many others. Some of the examples that we can talk about walking and running and dancing and biking, swimming, performing household chores, stretching and engaging in all manner of sports activities. These are very critical activities. Let me just begin by reflecting a little bit on the past with our forefathers and what used to happen. Because now we are a lot more urbanized in this contemporary world. Now, our forefathers lived with the physical activity due to minimal automation. So they were constantly doing this and that. And in many ways, their vocations or their work was itself a physical activity. And I remember when I was growing up, people digging, and they're using so much energy. When they're moving from one place to another, you can see them maybe on a bicycle climbing up a hill. And so already giving them that physical activity. Now, today, as we look at what is happening, well-paying vocations tend to be more sedentary. The ones where you just sit and use your brain. So cerebral exercise is what is rewarded. When you have a job where you're using a lot of thinking, you're actually paid much higher than that person who works, who labors very hard. So which means that for many of us, we don't have the opportunity for physical activity, which is good for us. In fact, the funny thing is we make money to earn leisure. So normally people earn the money and they want to go on holidays and things like that. Because your body always demands leisure. It's like the default state. But physical activity then becomes an unwelcome disturbance. If someone tells you, let's go run, let's go walk, let's go and do this, it's not leisure at all. And quite often we don't want to do it unless it's built into the work, which for many of us is not always true. Then we find it an unwelcome disturbance. And the result of all that is we tend to plan our time for what is desirable. And you know what is desirable? Rest, leisure. If I can finish the work and then rest. If I can do this and then rest. So we want as much rest as possible. So physical activity then ranks very low in appeal. Consequently, many of us, I'm sure, always find no time for physical activity because idling fits our time better. So we need to be aware as we address this particular topic of many false messages on the internet and social media. For example, there is this young man who keeps on popping up, especially when you go into YouTube, claiming that eat as much carbohydrate as you like, eat as much sugar as you like. It will neither affect your weight nor your health. Now you can imagine those kinds of messages for those that believe them. But you need to know that you can do physical activity anywhere, and I will be showing you some of that. First of all, the benefits of physical activity. Let's just think of that. What are the benefits? It is a well-known fact that adults who sit less and do moderate to vigorous physical activity gain some health benefits. And I will be showing you some of those which are age-related. And only a few lifestyle choices this is a quote actually, someone said, only a few lifestyle choices have as large an impact on your health as physical activity. In other words, physical activity ranks very high. Why? Because you and I were actually created to move, not to be seated all the time. And what I understand these days, there are many offices that are removing chairs so that people can work while standing. And so that now standing becomes the expected thing, and you only sit for a short time. So there are real benefits for that because of the way we were created. Everyone can experience the health benefits of physical activity, regardless of your age, abilities, ethnicity, shape, or size. These are things that do not matter, and we need to understand it's important for you to be involved. Let me just talk about some immediate benefits here before I go into the age-related. If you do a moderate to vigorous physical activity, there are benefits like the ones I'm going to mention here on your brain health. And for us, as we speak to you, and we know that this is a higher education institution, it's very important for you to understand that brain health is part and parcel of your study life. Okay? So some of these, for example, are improved thinking or cognition for children but also reduced short-term feelings of anxiety for adults. You're going to sit for an examination, or maybe you're going to have, and you're so worried and you're so anxious. Well, physical activity has actually been found to be useful for you. Secondly, regular physical activity helps keep you thinking, learning, and judgment skills become sharper even as you age. You know, physical activity hones you, sharpens you to be, to be able to learn better and to think better. But thirdly, it can also reduce your risk of depression and anxiety and give you better sleep, because physical activity enables your body to really work out, and eventually when you sleep, you rest. Then there is the whole aspect of weight management. Weight management is a product of your eating patterns and your physical activity. Essentially, those are the two things you have to watch: eating patterns and physical activity. Weight gain itself is a function of consuming more calories than those you burn, whether it is by eating or by drinking. If you are taking in more calories, the food that you eat, the chips and things like that, then you end up, of course, you must burn a lot more. Physical activity is what helps you to burn more calories. Secondly, there is also maintaining your weight. You know, you may reach a certain weight and you need to maintain it. Now, this is important to mention because there are people these days who think thin is better. But sometimes thin is also unhealthy. It does not mean that when you're lean, then you are a lot more healthy. So it's important to maintain the right weight for yourself. And it is said that 150 minutes a week, which is 30 minutes a day for 5 days, of moderate physical, not even vigorous, but moderate physical activity, which may include dancing or yard work, and I do walking, brisk walking myself. These are the kinds of things that are actually beneficial to you. But remember that different people need different, for their weight management. Some may need more, some may need less. In other words, more than 150 minutes. So that is something that, of course, I cannot answer for each individual. But to lose weight and keep it off, you need high physical activity. Unless you also adjust your eating patterns to reduce the amount of calories intake. Just look at what is happening here. And this is the very unhealthy way of eating. Someone is taking, there is a hamburger, there is chips, there is, I don't know what the others are, and then there is a glass of beer. I mean, everything shows up, of course, with his tummy, what we normally call public opinion. So what I'm calling upon you to do is determine to lose weight. That's very important. If you don't decide on your own, nobody is going to change anything about you. Secondly, get started on physical activity and then improve your eating patterns. Toward the end, I will be coming back to this issue just to give you a few tips on what you need to do. Now, let me look now at age-related. First of all, for children, I'm not going to go through all of them. Many of them actually overlap, but it's important for children. And I just want to point out, for example, academic performance and brain health. Those are very important for these children. But a number of the others are also true for the different ages, as you'll soon see. Well, let me move to the next one. Immediate benefits for adults. And it is said if you just have a single bout of moderate to vigorous physical activity, and when I talk about vigorous, that's one where you're really going and going and going. 3 things. First of all, sleep. You'll improve your sleep quality. And when we talk about sleep here, we are making reference to the need for rest. You know, it's possible to sleep without resting. Secondly, you'll have less anxiety. It reduces feelings of anxiety. But thirdly, your blood pressure. You know, especially if you're prone to your pressure shooting up, this is one of the best ways, exercise. But there are also long-term benefits. And like I say, these overlap. I didn't spend much time on the children intentionally because I know that the people I'm speaking to are above the 13 that we were talking about there. But health benefits for you will include brain health, which reduces risks of developing dementia. You know, I don't know if you've seen people who are suffering from dementia. You are in the health area, so I'm sure you know that. Someone sits here and does not know. I think there is even a president in Africa right now who is suffering from dementia. And I remember seeing a video where he was taken in front of, he was supposed to address an international gathering. And then he asked, where am I? You know, that's because of the dementia. And sometimes it includes Alzheimer's disease and depression. So if you want to reduce those, then you need physical activity. There is also heart health, okay? Heart health. To lower the risk of heart disease and stroke and type 2 diabetes. And by the way, let me say this. Many of us have a thinking that these are things that hit much older people. But increasingly, what is happening is younger and younger people are being attacked by these very things. And that's why physical activity is important for you. There is cancer prevention. It has been found that actually it lowers the risk of 8 cancers: bladder, breast, colon, endometrium, esophagus, kidney, lung, and stomach. But it also helps you to keep a healthy weight. I've already talked about that. Then there is bone strength, your bones, strengthening your bones. But of course, it also helps with balance and coordination, you know, so that you reduce on the risk of you falling. You have more balance, even as you walk or you run or whatever it is, you have a lot more balance. There is even emerging research actually that is talking about the immune function of your body, that it is enhanced by physical activity. All this is to say that as adults, we experience many benefits. Now, I know many of you are not in this category, but talk about people who are 65 and above. And that's the category where I belong. Once again, we have sleepless anxiety and blood pressure. So I will not spend too much time on that. And there are long-term benefits. Now, of those that I mentioned for adults, look at this one. This is an added one: independent living. You know, that actually physical activity helps people live independently longer. So friends, what I'm saying to you, that cultivate a habit of physical activity. Cultivate a habit of physical activity. Now, reducing your health risk. Moderate physical activity, things like brisk walking that I talked about, is usually safe for most people. And that's why I do that. I used to run until I was advised to stop running, mainly because of my knees. And I was advised that brisk walking will just achieve as much as long as I look at my time and a number of other things, consistency, regularity, and things like that. But one of the things where you'll benefit by physical activity is what is called cardiovascular disease. That has to do, of course, with the heart, as you can see, cardio. At least 30 minutes by 5 days a week of moderate physical activity lowers the risk for heart disease and stroke, and lowers your blood pressure, improves your cholesterol levels, which I'm sure as health professionals, you know very well that these are areas where you need to pay particular attention. The heart is a very important part of what you need to do. But secondly, physical activity, that moderate physical activity, reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, which are the conditions that occur together, increasing your risk of heart disease like the others that I just mentioned above. So it's exactly those kinds of things. So you now are in a better stead to live healthier if you are involved in physical activity. And of course, it means that the more activity, less the risk. For me, the brisk walking, I started out by doing about 3 kilometers. Now I do, and I just kept on increasing slowly. Now I do 4. In fact, yesterday I did 4.5 kilometers. Now, if you look at our terrain here where we live, it's a hill. So I literally have to go up and down, and I do all of that in about 40 minutes. That is to look after my body. But it has also been found that even for infectious diseases, that reduces the risk of serious outcomes, things like COVID-19, the flu, and pneumonia, that the hospitalizations and deaths were reduced in these for those people who were physically active. Irrespective of what else they may have, there is a better chance of these people surviving because of their physical activity. Look at some of the risks that are there and how they are reduced. And this is in particular with the cancers that I already mentioned above. Things like bladder, 15% lower risk. Breast cancer, 12 to 21 lower risk. Colon cancer, whether proximal right there near the colon or distal, 19% lower risk. Endometrium, the cancer of the lining of the uterus, I talked about it also, 20% lower risk, because it reduces your obesity and for that reason allows you then to be safer from the cancer by 20%. The esophagus, 21% lower risk. The kidney or renal, at least 12% lower risk. Stomach or gastric, 19% lower risk. And there is also thinking that possibly even lung cancer, although that is still much debated. But cancer survivors themselves actually benefit from being physically active. What about strengthening your bones and muscles, which I touched on above? Physical activity strengthens your body as you age. And friends, none of us is growing younger. All of us are growing older. And therefore, it becomes necessary for you to strengthen your body, to strengthen your bones. You look at some of these simple exercises, and I just put there the simple ones. Of course, there are others that can be harder. I mean, I do some of these virtually every time I do exercise, but that's just to ensure that I strengthen my body, my bones and my muscles. Your bones, joints, and muscles support your body and help you to move. Keeping them healthy ensures your ability to do your daily activities and being physically active. The elderly, of course, they experience reduced muscle mass and strength with aging. So the strength reduces as well. And therefore, it's more important for us. And the reason I say this here, and I keep on even talking about the elderly, you will become clear to you, but the point is that the habits of today become your settled habit in old age. So muscle strengthening activities, like the ones that you see on the right, help to increase or maintain your muscle mass and strength. And of course, it's very important for you to do this repeatedly So you don't do them once and you say, well, I think I've got the full benefit. No, the benefit will come if you pay particular attention to keep repeating, and I'll be coming back to that later. So improve your ability to do daily activities and prevent your falls. That's what physical activity does for you. So everyday activities, simple activities like climbing stairs, going out shopping on your feet, of course, or playing with your children, because the children, for them, they keep on moving. You know, when you have children, or in our case, for us, we have grandchildren, it's very healthy for you to actually play with them. In the course of entertaining them and bonding with them, you are also getting an exercise on the way. So what we are saying is you need to avoid what is called functional limitation, where you are unable to do things for yourself, and that only comes if you're physically active. So the physically active lower that risk. And they also improve physical function, which decreases the risk of falls and injury for older people. And then you also gain a lower risk of a life-changing hip structure. You know, hips can fracture, I beg your pardon. Hips get fractured, and these may result from a fall, and it's much worse for inactive people, and they suffer from these things. It is also important, physical activity, to increase the chance of living longer and healthier, not just longer, but also healthier. You know, you can live longer, but you're not healthier. You are struggling all the time. So avoid preventable deaths for ages 40 plus by just doing moderate physical activity. Even if you just added 10 minutes to your activity, you will get benefits. And then as each day passes, you can add on more. You don't have to stay at that particular level. For adults, it's usually recommended that if you're 60 years or lower, you need between 8,000 and 10,000 steps per day. And I better tell you that I usually beat the 10,000 steps per day. Okay? But if you are over 60 years of age, then you need about 6,000 to 8,000 steps per day to mitigate against the risk of premature death. You know, so it's very important for you, if you want to live longer, if you want to, in your old age, to be healthy, then physical activity is necessary for you. And like I say there on the right, a healthy body now prepares you for healthy aging. Managing chronic health conditions and disabilities. Now you see the hands on the right here, or even the man who is bending over with the knee and so forth, that is arthritis. And then, of course, there are heart issues here. And what we are saying is that regular physical activity helps manage existing chronic conditions and disabilities. Whether it's arthritis, it can improve your function, it can improve your mood, your quality of life, and control your blood sugar levels and lower risk of heart disease, as we have already mentioned even above. Starting some practical steps. Now, I want to go now to some of the things, in case you've not been extremely, very active. What can you do to make yourself better? Now, let me first of all say that the earlier you form physical activity habits, the better. They become harder to form as you grow older. It's possible, but all I'm saying is start now. Secondly, physical activity demands an I need it, not I want it attitude. I need it. You know, like I said earlier, it's not going to be very easy because it's not a leisurely kind of thing. It exerts your body. You feel your muscles are stretched. And so when your muscles are stretched, those are the moments when you want to say, I don't think I want to stretch my muscles anymore. Well, are you able to say, I need it rather than I want it? And that calls for intentionality. It calls for commitment. Thirdly, overcome self-consciousness. I have found that many people, when it comes to physical activity, there's a lot of self-consciousness, as if other people watching me, they're seeing what I'm doing when they're starting out. But you need to remember, and this I found out for myself, that other people are less concerned about you. Because as they go about their own troubles in life, they also have their own issues. And therefore, they are not as concerned about what's going on with you. So don't waste your time trying to think that other people are looking at you, they are viewing you. Thirdly, remember, you are a Homo sapien. In other words, you are supposed to be walking on 2 feet. And those 2 legs are very, very important, because all the time those legs are the ones that support the weight upstairs. So keep to your feet most of the time, less on your bottom. If your job is the kind that keeps you on your bottom, then learn periodic breaks to stand and walk around. That's why even in meetings, you know, when I chair meetings, I want to give a little bit of space for people just to stand up, have a little bit of a break, you know, because it's important for them when they stand up on their feet and they take a few moments and so forth, it helps them now sit down and become a lot more productive. So remember, you were created to be on your feet, on your legs. Further steps. If your body is not acclimatized to sweaty physical exercise, you are going to experience a short-lived itchy opening of the pores. Now, what do I mean by that? If you went out running and are not used to exercise, and you start sweating, you may start scratching yourself, maybe on the thighs or something, and scratching yourself. That's because your pores are opening up. It does not mean you stop. If you stop, you'll go back to the same situation. On the contrary, it is just telling you your body has not been healthy because your pores are closed. So you better keep on so that you can open those pores and be able to sweat through them. Sixth, do not assess your physical activity by what or how others do it. You know, comparing with other people can be one of the worst things that you will do in your exercise. And for that reason, if you want to run with anyone or walk with anyone, allow them to walk at their pace and you walk at your pace. There is no need for you to just keep on pushing. What matters is you're able to do it. Okay, so don't compare yourself with others or to seasoned sportsmen. Remember always, you are not them. You are yourself. But also 7, couple physical activity with your menu. I've already talked about food. You know, it does not help for you to do the physical activity and yet you are eating unhealthy. When you eat unhealthy, it won't help you. And on the right there is a picture of the kind of foods and the percentages that you're supposed to be using. And you can see them for yourself. So couple your physical activity with your menu. Remember again that input of calories must be counterbalanced with output. In other words, your menu must be counterbalanced by physical activity. You could seek a nutritionist's advice. I don't think I'm capable of giving advice on something like this. But further, be consistent to benefit more. Be consistent. For example, what time of day do you do it? I normally do it in the morning. After we've had our devotion, we've prayed, we've read the Bible, then I go and I hit the road. You know, just do the time, you just have to set aside that time. Many of us struggle just to set aside a time because we think we are very busy. Keep the length of time you use. If it is 30 minutes, keep it 30 minutes. If it's longer, keep it like that. If you wish to increase, increase modestly, okay, conservatively over time. Don't rush to do things. Even if you started with 10 minutes, you got 15, you got 20, and so forth, it's okay. The important thing is you are consistent, and you'll gain more benefit that way. Secondly, build accountability into your regime. I do remember in 2008, and I was working at the university, I called upon a few of my colleagues at the university to start a kind of physical activity club. And we met every Monday at 5 o'clock. And one of them always came with a weighing scale for us to weigh ourselves so that we know what progress we are making. And then we had to learn and go through what kind of activities are we going to be involved in. Most of us, of course, were choosing walking, others chose running. I can assure you some people fell off, but some of us, a good number of us, kept on. And I know the benefits that I have got as a result. My body changed significantly. So accountability with your friends, it's like an accountability group. We would sit down and I stand on that thing. And there was no laughing at whoever, what weight each of us had. The important thing is that when you found out your weight, you're going to work harder. And I remember at that particular time, I lost 12 kilograms within about a month. 12 kilograms. I didn't have to go into all these other things that many people tell us on the internet and so forth. No. Physical activity. That's really what, of course, I changed also what I was eating, the menu. Those are the things that we looked at. So it's important for you to have accountability if you're able to get it. Above all, seek professional advice about the physical activity that's recommended or well suited for you. Don't assume that whatever the other people do, you see someone running, you also go running. For example, in my case, at my age, I was told stop running. And very often I've checked with the doctors, I've checked with physiotherapists, just to know what kind of activity should I be involved in. These are useful for me to be able to go on. So friends, there are many different kinds of activities you can have. You can see that young Ugandan girl, Chirabo, who is a swimmer, and she has got her medals. So if you choose swimming, and I understand swimming is one of the best. I have not been very good at swimming. I don't do much floating, so I don't go that way very much. But whatever you're doing, as long as you're physically active, that's what you need. And lastly, take care of God's temple. Take care of God's temple. Okay? There's a verse in 1 Corinthians 3:16-17. Do you not know that you're God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him. For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. Friends, you need to understand that this body has been loaned to you. Look at it as a steward. And that body is something that you need to care for. And what we've been talking about today is self-care, where you take care of this body. It's not just for God. You will find that actually it's for you. I feel amazingly healthy. And for me, I'm above 65, like I said. But I'm enjoying my life. Why? Because I'm active. Stay healthy. Be active. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for that presentation. And indeed, it's a tendency for us, especially students, not to engage in physical activity. But thank you for the enlightenment and the encouragement. Personally, I'm working and I haven't really been consistent, and I have learned today that one of the key things, actually, we have to be consistent.